Natural disasters have always been a part of life on Earth. Some of them develop slowly, giving people enough time to prepare, while others arrive with little or no warning. Earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, hurricanes, floods, and tsunamis can all cause serious damage to communities and the environment. Among these disasters, the Indian Ocean tsunami of 2004 is remembered as one of the most tragic events in modern history. It affected millions of people across several countries, destroyed entire coastal communities, and changed the way many governments think about disaster preparedness. The event also showed both the destructive power of nature and the remarkable strength of people who worked together during an extremely difficult period. The disaster began on the morning of December 26, 2004, when a powerful underwater earthquake struck off the west coast of the Indonesian island of Sumatra. The earthquake measured more than 9.0 on the moment magnitude scale, making it one of the strongest ever recorded. Because the movement happened under the sea, a huge amount of water was suddenly pushed upward. This movement created a series of enormous waves that traveled across the Indian Ocean at very high speeds. In the open sea, the waves were difficult to notice, but as they reached shallow coastal areas, they became much higher and more dangerous. Within a few hours, they had reached countries thousands of kilometers away from the place where the earthquake had happened. Indonesia was the country that suffered the greatest losses. Many towns and villages in the province of Aceh were almost completely destroyed. Thousands of homes, schools, hospitals, and places of worship disappeared within minutes. Families were separated, and many people lost relatives, friends, and neighbors. Roads, bridges, and communication systems were also badly damaged, making rescue work much more difficult. Survivors had to deal not only with the loss of their homes, but also with a shortage of food, clean drinking water, and medical supplies. The tsunami did not stop at Indonesia. It spread across the Indian Ocean and struck several other countries, including Sri Lanka, India, Thailand, the Maldives, Myanmar, and even parts of Eastern Africa. Every place experienced the disaster in a different way, depending on its location and geography. In Sri Lanka, trains, houses, and fishing villages were swept away by the powerful waves. In India, many coastal communities lost their homes and fishing equipment, which meant that people also lost their main source of income. Thailand, a popular tourist destination, faced heavy damage in beach areas where thousands of local people and foreign visitors had been enjoying their holidays. One of the most shocking facts about the disaster was the enormous number of people who died. More than 230,000 people lost their lives, and many others were reported missing. Millions were left without homes and had to stay in temporary shelters for weeks or even months. Children were among the most vulnerable, because many became orphans after losing one or both parents. Older people and those with disabilities also faced serious challenges while trying to escape or rebuild their lives. The emotional pain caused by the disaster continued long after the floodwaters had disappeared. The destruction was not limited to buildings and human lives. The natural environment also suffered greatly. Coastal forests, coral reefs, beaches, and farmland were heavily damaged. Salt water entered rivers and agricultural fields, making it difficult to grow crops for several seasons. Many animals were affected because their habitats changed suddenly. Fishing industries experienced major losses as boats were destroyed and fish populations were disturbed in some areas. As a result, many local economies struggled to recover, especially those that depended on tourism and fishing. Although the tsunami caused terrible suffering, it also brought people together from all over the world. Governments, charities, businesses, and ordinary citizens quickly joined efforts to help the affected regions. Emergency teams flew in with food, drinking water, medicine, tents, and rescue equipment. Doctors and nurses treated injured survivors, while volunteers helped distribute supplies and look after children. Many countries donated large amounts of money to support rebuilding projects. The international response became one of the biggest humanitarian operations ever organized, showing that people can put aside their differences when faced with a global tragedy. The disaster also taught valuable lessons about the importance of disaster preparedness. Before 2004, the Indian Ocean did not have a proper tsunami warning system like the one used in the Pacific Ocean. As a result, many coastal communities received no warning before the giant waves arrived. After the disaster, Governments and international organizations work together to develop better monitoring systems. New underwater sensors, communication networks, and warning centers were established to detect earthquakes and send alerts as quickly as possible. Although no system can prevent earthquakes from happening, early warnings can save thousands of lives by giving people enough time to move to safer places. Education has become another important part of disaster management. Schools in many coastal regions now teach students what to do if they notice warning signs of a tsunami. For example, if the ground shakes strongly or the sea suddenly moves far away from the shore, people should immediately head for higher ground instead of staying to watch the unusual sight. Regular emergency drills help communities become familiar with evacuation routes and safety procedures. These activities may seem simple, but they can make a significant difference during a real emergency. Scientists have also learned a great deal from studying the Indian Ocean tsunami. They continue to examine earthquakes, ocean movements, and coastal landscapes in order to improve prediction systems. Modern technology allows experts to collect information much faster than in the past. Satellites, underwater instruments, and computer models help researchers understand how tsunami waves travel across the ocean. This knowledge supports governments when they make decisions about emergency planning, building regulations, and public safety. The rebuilding process took many years because the damage was so extensive. Entire neighborhoods had to be constructed again from the ground up. New homes, schools, hospitals, roads, and ports gradually replaced those that had been destroyed. In many places, stronger buildings were designed to better withstand future natural disasters. Local communities also focused on restoring businesses, especially fishing and tourism, so that families could earn a living once again. Even though physical reconstruction was important, emotional recovery often required much more time. Many survivors continued to receive counseling and psychological support as they dealt with painful memories. The event also influenced international cooperation in disaster management. Countries realized that natural disasters do not respect national borders and that working together is essential. Governments now exchange scientific information, organize joint training exercises, and support one another during emergencies. International organizations continue to encourage cooperation in research, emergency response, and long-term recovery projects. Such partnerships help build stronger and more prepared communities around the world. Another important lesson concerns the relationship between people and nature. Human beings have achieved remarkable scientific and technological progress, yet natural forces can still have an enormous impact on society. Instead of believing that disasters can always be controlled, communities must focus on reducing risks and preparing for possible emergencies. Protecting coastal forests such as mangroves, following safe building standards, and respecting environmental conditions can all reduce the impact of future disasters. Small actions taken before an emergency often prove far more effective than trying to solve every problem afterwards. The Indian Ocean tsunami remains one of the most unforgettable disasters in recent history because of its extraordinary scale and its lasting consequences. It claimed hundreds of thousands of lives, caused widespread destruction, and deeply affected countless families across many nations. At the same time, it inspired an unprecedented level of international cooperation and encouraged important improvements in disaster warning systems, emergency planning, scientific research, and public education. Although the memories of that tragic day will never completely disappear, the lessons learned continue to guide efforts to protect vulnerable communities. By strengthening cooperation, investing in modern technology, and promoting greater public awareness, societies can reduce the risks of future disasters and help ensure that more lives are protected when nature once again demonstrates its immense power.